Thank you again, Sarah, for joining us today. We definitely appreciate your time and just like all the advocacy that you are just pushing forth in the pageant world specifically right now. So just a little intro. You are currently, let me see. So you have your degree in health administration, correct?
Yes.
From the University of North Florida. By the way, congratulations, it's awesome. You were Miss Wheelchair Florida in 2015 and placed second in Wheelchair America in 2016. She also did a TED Talk in Jacksonville, which is amazing. So I would definitely recommend watching it. And also I posted a link below. It is MissFloridaUSA.com/vote for Miss. And she's currently running for Miss Florida, is that correct?
Yep.
Yep, awesome. And basically, I really commend you on being in that space and really showing people all about inclusion and just awareness around arthrogryposis as well in the beauty industry or pageant industry. Because I'm sure like that, like you were saying in your post, it's the first time that would ever occur in that type of industry. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Just your kind of pageant journey?
Yeah, sure. So I actually started in pageants when I was 16. I went for my first able-bodied pageant before I did Miss Wheelchair. And I just had a really great experience. It was my first time, so of course I had no idea what I was doing. And my parents said I could do one, so that was the one I got away with. And I placed top 15 that year out of 67 girls at National American Miss. And I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then a few years later, I had met Miss Wheelchair Florida, the current reigning title holder that year. And I was like, oh, I want to be just like her. Like, I feel like I fit the mold. I could do exactly what she does. Like, I love advocacy. It would just be a great spot for me. So you have to be 21 to compete. So on my 21st birthday, I applied. And then I ran that following year for Miss Wheelchair Florida. And I placed as Miss Wheelchair Florida that year on the first try. And I absolutely fell in love with pageants. I just thought it was such an amazing way to bring women together who have like-minded advocacy and philanthropy efforts and put them all in the same room and challenge them to not only grow personally, but professionally. And so pageants get a bad rap a lot because people see what they see on TV and they're like, oh God, that's what pageants are like. But really, when you come out of a pageant, regardless if you have the crown on your head or not, you come out a stronger woman. And I think that's the most amazing part of them. So I competed for Miss Wheelchair Florida. And then since I was the title holder in 2015, I ran for Miss Wheelchair America. That's kind of how it works through the system. So once you win your state, you go for the country. And we flew to Iowa and we had Miss Wheelchair America for a week. Again, I met amazing women who all had different advocacy efforts that they were working on, but we all shared similar struggles and similar stories. And that's what kind of connected us together. And so that year I placed top, I was second runner up. So technically third place.
Yeah.
And it was just a really amazing opportunity to be around so many like-minded women who not only were older than me, I was one of the youngest contestants to compete, but they also were more wise in their time being a person with a disability. So they had so much more experience and so much more knowledge to share than I did at the age of 21. So after that, I decided that I wasn't done in pageants. I felt like Miss Wheelchair was an amazing organization and it really kickstarted my advocacy efforts and all that I wanted to do for our community. But I wanted to have more of a challenge and I wanted to start challenging the community on the beauty front. So in 2019, I actually competed for the first time in Miss Florida USA. So this will be my second go around. And the first year was very intimidating and actually quite scary, if we're honest. So you don't really know what you're getting yourself into till you walk into orientation on the first day, or in my case, roll into orientation on the first day. And you're the only one rolling besides suitcases. And you're like, yikes, what did I get myself into? And the women are just so well put together and their hair is all beautiful and curly and their makeup is on point and they're, average height and they're super skinny and they're super fit. And you're just like, ooh, I think I came to the wrong place at the wrong time and I need to turn around and go home because I didn't look like anybody. And so it was a
Yeah.
really big struggle for me, both mentally and emotionally, to be able to keep myself there, knowing that one, I didn't fit in. So there wasn't somebody I could make an instant connection with because I felt like since I don't look like anybody, I really don't fit in with what they're looking for. And two, it was really hard because I think at the beginning, a lot of the contestants felt like I was just there as, oh, what a cute little girl in a wheelchair. And that's not the way I wanted to be taken. And so that played a huge part in my emotions as well. So we went throughout the week, or the weekend, I guess I should say. And I know I didn't put my best forward. I didn't place last year. And you could tell, like, it's all about being the most confident woman. And you could tell I wasn't because it's a mental game. It's really about preparing yourself, not just physically and how you look physically and how you present yourself outwardly, but it's how you present the inside of you, how you present your values, how you present your achievements, all of those things. And so I wasn't going to go back and compete again. I was like, no, I think I'm done. Like, I don't really want to do this anymore. And then a lot of people came to me and said, well, if you don't go back again, you've only changed history for 1 year, but you have the chance to really change it one more time. And I was like, well, darn, that was a terrible answer. Thank you. So I said, okay, fine. I guess I'll go back one more time. It's my last year because we age out after 27. So I'll be 28 in September. So this is my last time. And I said, okay, I'm going to go back one more time, but this time I'm going to do it all the way. I'm going to do everything every pageant girl does. I'm going to make sure I have my hair completely done. I'm going to have extensions. I'm going to get the spray tan. I'm going to get the teeth whitening. I'm just going to do all of it because the statement, go big or go home, that felt like it played a good part. So that's kind of how I got into it. I feel like having segregated pageants, which is kind of what I consider them. So you got Miss Wheelchair and then you have Miss USA. And for some reason, we can't compete together. And I was tired of the divide. And I feel like a woman can be and feel beautiful no matter whether they sit or stand or whatever shape or size they are. And so they should have an equal chance of having any title to be a representative of our country. And if you think about our country, we don't all look the same. So why can't the representative look different? Why do they always have to be, this size, this, this fitness level, this color hair? It doesn't have to be that way anymore. And so we're challenging that. And we're going to try and break that barrier one last time this year. But if it's not me, it's the next little girl that says, she did it, I want to go do it. And that's all that matters.
I love that. And I think what I really admire is your boldness to change perspectives or challenge perspectives, especially in an industry that is so hyper focused on, the physicality of a person, because essentially pageants, or correct me if I'm wrong, pageants are definitely assessing someone on their like outer portions, and as well as the kind of their mentalities and just their advocacy, because I'm sure there's a portion where they talk about what do you champion, or like how you hope to change the world. I'm kind of basing it on like miscongeniality. Great movie with Sandra Bullock. But from that like perspective, have you seen a change in terms of the discussions in the pageant industry from when you like started actually competing in the industry? Have you like seen maybe like other models or other pageant girls that are kind of talking about disability a bit more? I was just kind of curious on how
yes,
going.
not in the industry itself, not from like the coordinators or any of the state programs, but since this is my second year and we're trying to make it more known that someone like me is competing, I have had, I think, 4 women reach out to me, and they're going for their state title in an able-bodied pageant. And I am so proud to just know that people are now going, okay, if you can do it, I can do it, regardless of what happens. And I think that's the most amazing shift, is whether we shift the perspective of the judges or we shift our own perspective and we start finding our inner confidence and we start feeling confident in the body we have and the abilities that we have been given. I just think that's such an amazing shift on all parts for everybody. And so that's the best thing I've seen so far. Hopefully more will change, as years go on, but Just knowing that more people are stepping out of that comfort zone and they're going, yeah, I do feel beautiful and I feel like I can win this, and they're going for it. I
Yeah,
think it's an amazing accomplishment.
awesome. And that's kind of tying into my next question. How has your perspective shifted from when you were like a child up until now, in your 20s? Has it been a huge shift in like how you perceive your own self or the disability community in general, going through the pageant industry?
Yeah, I think a lot of things played a role in my transition. When I was a lot younger, my mom was my main advocate. And so she would speak up a lot for me, and I kind of got to stay behind and just go with the flow. And until about the end of my high school career, where I finally had to speak up for myself. And that's kind of where that transition basically stemmed for me, was understanding that nobody's going to speak up for you the older you become and more adult you become. You have to speak up for yourself for the things that you want. And I started realizing that I had a lot of acquaintances or friends who also had disabilities, who they didn't know how to ask for help, or they weren't comfortable asking for help, or they didn't want to voice this opinion or that opinion. And so I felt like at that point, it was because there wasn't anybody when I was growing up that looked like me in the media, on TV, and magazines. Nobody looked like me. You can ask me to this day, Sarah, who's your role model? And I'll be like, well, maybe this person, because I can relate to like their attitude and their life outlook. But there isn't somebody on this side that looks like me that I'm like, yep, that's my role model. That's what I want to grow up and be like, because they look just like me.
Yeah.
Isn't that representation? And so going off to college and just realizing that I had to step up and be the advocate for myself made me realize that so many people don't do that, or don't have the support behind them to do that. And so that's kind of where my transition was to, okay, if I'm going to go through this and it's going to be something super difficult that I'm going to accomplish for myself, then I better make sure I take really good notes, because the next person that's going to go through it, I'm going to help them through it, and it's going to be a lot easier for them. And that's just my mission now, is whatever I go through, I'll figure out the best way to go through it. And the next person I take through it, it'll be even easier.
I love that. So it went from being like almost, oh, who's your role model, to like, I'm my own role model, and you just kind of want to be, I guess that's strength for a lot of younger children who face disability, who are trying to figure out or navigate it. Because even personally for me, like you were saying, I actually really resonated with, who can I look into the media and see a parallel in some way? And like, it's really hard without that representation. So I do commend you, and truly admire like your ability to be in front of an audience with such boldness, such light, that, you know, some kids are still trying, or even adults, I'm gonna say, that are trying to really burn brightly, because it's really hard with the reality of like disability. The My other question is actually kind of stemming into that younger aspect a bit more, the infantilization of like disabled individuals. Like for me personally, in high school, there was always that like, oh, kind of like making me younger than I am almost. And I'm sure a lot of like disabled individuals kind of face that too. So my question is, how do you go about those type of challenges of like changing perception of the disabled experience, especially for adults? Because I think a lot of times we do focus on the disability experience for children, but then also like the evolution in becoming an adult, and, you know, being taken or being perceived more with that kind of disposition of maturity. Like, how have you kind of faced that? Sorry, that was like a really long question.
I was like, wait, what was the question? Okay.
Yeah.
So I think I kind of understand where you're going with it. And so I guess I would say like, there's a struggle there with understanding how somebody who has never had any relation with somebody with a disability, how they perceive me, right? And
Mhm.
it all comes down, in my opinion, it comes down to pure education, right? If I don't give them the chance to learn who I am, what I am capable of, what I do and I don't need, why my hands are the way they are, why I ride in a wheelchair. If I don't give them that opportunity to understand, then they will forever continue to make those private assumptions, and I will have to live with them because I didn't take the chance to educate them. So when those things happen in that situation, it's just speaking up, and it's being bold enough to say, hey, I noticed that you're still staring at me for the last 5 minutes and it's kind of getting weird. I know I look really nice today, but is there a question that you have? I'm open to answering questions because I'd love to help eliminate any assumptions that you've already made. And just being bold about it, because the problem is our society is so divided because we don't have the education as a foundation. There is no disability awareness class when you're in elementary school, middle school, or high school, and there should be. And maybe that's something I can teach later on down the road. Who knows? But the goal for now is to just say, okay, if you're going to make the assumption, then at least let me educate you. Now, if you go behind me and you still don't follow what I say, then yes, I do have a problem, and I'm not going to keep educating you on the same topic. That's just ignorance. But it is understanding that we're people first, and they're people first too. So they're not trying to break you down and examine you and be like, oh my God, what is wrong with her? It's just that they don't know. We're not out there enough. I mean, people with disabilities were in institutions 30 years ago. And now all of a sudden we're all over, right? I was in Walmart the other day and I felt like everybody else. Some young woman rolled by me in a wheelchair and I was like, oh my God, there's another girl in a wheelchair. And then I was like, Sarah, that is such an able comment. But it's because there's not many of us out all the time. And so it gets really exciting when you're like, oh my God, there's somebody else that looks like me out shopping at Walmart. Like, why is that so cool? But it's because we're now opening those doors and creating more accessibility. So now we have to educate the community because they're not used to it either. I mean, obviously I'm not used to it either, but it was just, I caught myself thinking, this is what able-bodied people think all the time.
Yeah.
And so it was like, oh, I get it. And so just educating people on what that looks like, and saying, no, like, yes, I'm in a wheelchair. I love when kids walk by me and they're like, Mom, what is her chair? Is that like a robot? And I'm shaking my head yes as they're staring at me. Because, yeah, of course it's a robot. And I'm like, a transformer. It's really cool. And their parents are like, shh, don't talk to her. And I'm like, I'm not going to cough my disability on you. Like, your kid cannot talk to me. So let's have an open conversation. Let's start with the younger generation, because the assumptions and all of the perceptions are already there in our generations that are already established, right? So the best way now to move forward is to start with the younger generations, because if we can change their perceptions now, they'll grow up not having those. And I think that's
exactly. And I love that you brought that up, actually. I was watching a YouTube video the other day about how parents often kind of like hush their children whenever they're like staring at someone with a disability. And I never realized it growing up, but like doing that kind of inhibits that conversation with that, like you're saying, having the younger generation like become educated about the disability experience and talking about it. And then it also has like an underlying connotation of just like, oh, it's just taboo. It's something that you like don't discuss openly. And I definitely agree. That's something that I didn't even like think about, that having a disability awareness class in elementary school, just because like even as a young child, there was always that like hidden divide between like anyone who was like in the special education class versus just like the regular class. And there was always like gray area that was just like never discussed, even amongst like the teachers who were just like, they actively knew what that kind of dynamic was. So I love that you brought that up. I hope that's a thing that we can start pushing for. I'll become an advocate too, so we can get the disability awareness class into schools.
Right.
Because you're right.
People in all states. So let's just make a team and go for it.
I'm down for it. Let's do it. Oh man. So kind of switching the conversation a bit, going to your PerMobile Power commercial, I kind of wanted to hear about your experience on that. Just especially like you really pushing forth for that representation in media. And I think that's commercials are a great place to start. It's a great quick way to get that, like, oh, people with disabilities exist. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so I had actually coincidentally reached out to them 2.5 years ago. I reached out to Permobile and said,
Oh, okay.
hey, you don't have an ambassador program like some of the other major wheelchair companies. I think you should create an ambassador program. I'd love to be a part. I've had Permobile my whole life. So I was like, this is a great way. I can go around and share all about the wheelchairs and all the functions that they have. And nobody got back to me until probably 3 or 4 months ago. And they said, hey, Sara, you probably don't remember reaching out to us 2.5 years ago, but we remember you. And I was like, whoa, weird. Okay. And so they were shooting a commercial and updating all their marketing materials and stuff like that for the new wheelchairs that came out. And she said, we'd really like to do it in Miami. And since you're in Florida, we'd love for you to come and be in the commercial. And I was like, okay, I've never acted in my life and I have no idea how to do a commercial, but sure, no problem. So it was kind of a wild ride. I have never in my life been on such a crazy emotional roller coaster in 24 hours like I did that day. But we flew down the night before because
Yeah.
Miami's about 500-ish miles from where I live in Jacksonville. So it's about a 5.5 hour drive. And so
Ooh,
driving was
yeah.
for me. So flying was easier. It was only a 45-minute flight, so much easier. So we flew down. We got in at about midnight and then had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go get to set. So I got there. I met the whole crew. They gave me a brand new wheelchair to sit in for the commercial that they fitted perfectly to me. And then we went to an outdoor mall in Miami. That's where we started shooting. And they had asked me prior, they said, are you married? Can you bring your husband with you? And I was like, not married. No husband.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I don't have one of those. And they said, well, that's okay. We'll just hire you a husband. And I was like, oh my gosh, do I get to pick out my husband? Okay, no,
Ooh.
it's fine. No big deal. So I get there unknowing. I don't know anything. I'm just like, okay, whatever I have to do, I have to do. Because when you're an actor, you kind of have to do what you have to do, right?
Correct.
So we started filming all morning. We filmed for about 4 hours straight. We had a camera crew and all kinds of stuff. And it was just kind of wild. People in the mall were like, what is going on? Why does this girl have cameras all over her? Like, I don't understand. And then we took a break. We went and had lunch. And then I met my, I guess, fake husband. He was interesting. He was not obviously well versed in disability because it was a little awkward and you could feel the awkwardness. And I was like,
Yeah.
interesting. But so we have a little tiny segment in the commercial. We filmed for quite a few hours. So, 8 hours of filming means 1 minute and 30 seconds of commercial, which is wild. But it was just a lot of fun to be able to kind of share the new aspects of what the wheelchair does. And I would be honest, like seeing myself in the commercial, I'm like, yeah, no, that's not me. I don't even know who that is. Like, what? This could not be true. But it was such an amazing experience and everybody had a blast and the crew was amazing. They were so accommodating. I didn't have to ask for anything out of the ordinary. They already knew what accommodations to do. And it just felt really great. It was like, I just fit right there. And I was like, this is amazing. And I know it's not what it feels like every time, but it was just such an amazing experience. So
That is so actually that is very reassuring to hear. Just the whole, like, they were actually accommodating on like a film set. Just because well, from my perspective of when I hear like a film set, I'm like, oh, it's just like super busy and just like very intense. People have to get into their acting modes real quick. Actually, a question about that. So when you get into character, like, how did you prepare for that? Actually, I was just wondering.
So I didn't really get into character because I was like, I think I'm gonna have to just
Like,
be me. And he was like, that's
be
okay. And
okay.
I was like, well, I'm kind of outgoing and obnoxious depending on what setting you put me in. So it was fun. I just was myself.
I love that. Okay. So did they tell you, like, this is more just my curiosity. It's like, okay, in this scene, you have to, go to the kitchen or living room and then like ask Alexa this. Like, how did they like play by play
So I
go?
had no idea what any of the scenes were, and we did not film it in order of the commercial. So like it was
Oh
filmed almost
wow.
backwards. And
Yeah.
there was no lines to study, which I think made me the most nervous because I was like, are you sure you don't have lines for me? And they're like, no, we'll just feed you the lines and then say go. And I'm like, are you serious? I'm not going to remember this. So we would sit and we would be like, okay, Alexa, open my Permobile. Can you tell me this? And so he'd be like, just repeat this. And then he'd say, okay, action. And I was like, oh crap, I forget what you said. Oh my God, I'm sorry. And I'm like, ah, and then he's like, cut. I'm like, oh my God, I feel so bad. I was like, you just said the line 10 seconds ago. I don't know why I can't remember. But we would record the line like 20 times and then they pick the best line. So you just keep repeating it over and over and over and over, and then they cut it all out.
Movie magic. Love it. Yeah. So I guess that's an interesting dynamic because like whenever you're doing pageants, you have the dynamic of being in front of like an audience or just like kind of just being in front and being watched, and like the same thing on a film set. Like what do you think is the difference, or at least educate me on like what is the difference between being on film and then like being in front of like an audience in a pageant show, other than just like the camera being in your face?
Well, there's cameras in your faces at pageants too, so it's not.
Oh, true.
It's pretty similar, honestly, and I think it's just like you have to be really good at speaking on the spot and trying to keep your thoughts together so you're not like I don't know, you know. And so I've done a lot of training on speaking and having conversations that flow quickly, and just kind of taking topics and running with them to see how far I can get before it becomes just this jumble of mess about a topic that doesn't make any sense, and just to kind of prepare myself so that way I am more confident, you know, having those conversations or speaking in front of cameras. But I think the most empowering part, regardless if it's in the pageant system or it is behind camera or maybe it's on a runway. I did a fashion show not too long ago on a runway. And so all these different aspects of the beauty industry, the fashion industry, and the media, right? It's just knowing that regardless of what happens in that moment, it's what the end result is going to be. And the end result is going to be the part that changes the community and changes our society. And that's the part that matters to me. So you give it your all at the beginning because you know the end result is worth it.
For sure. Well, it really was worth it because the commercial was amazing. I will definitely link it in our little comment section on Facebook, so everyone needs to watch it. So I guess with that experience, are you enjoying kind of the acting side or like film and TV type of portion? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Is that something that you would like try to pursue a bit more?
Yeah. I've thought about it. Yeah. I probably should take acting classes before I pursue it. I don't think I'm that great, but I really would. I would really enjoy doing more within the media. I've always had the dream of being a news broadcaster because I just feel like I could tell stories so well that being on the news would be great. So that's a future goal. Who knows how that happens, but maybe I could predict the weather. Nobody ever gets fired for predicting the wrong weather. So that would be a good but other than that, I mean, I think just being open to so many opportunities that could possibly land in your lap and saying, yeah, I'm not comfortable with this, but there's so many more things that can come out of it, or we can start using it as an advocacy platform to kind of spring off of and build more organizations and foundations and just really help the world understand that we're really not different. Like, yes, we're different because we look different, but we're still people. We still have all the same feelings. My feeling of anger is the same feeling of your anger as the next 10 people, right? Because all feelings are feelings and we all feel. And so I think that's one thing that we need to realize that really does bring us together as a whole. And we don't take that into consideration as often. So the goal is just to continue sharing my life. I share literally everything. I will tell you how I climb on the stove to put food in the microwave. I don't care. I will show you everything because somebody out there is like, oh, she doesn't need 24-hour care. She can take care of herself. Okay, well, watch me try and climb on the stove and then tell me I don't need it because I almost fell and I recorded the whole thing. But somebody needs to know, right? Somebody needs to know that we're trying every single day to be more and more a part of society. Somebody needs to know that we're out there working, we have jobs, we have careers, we've gone to college, we drive our own cars, because what they know is not true anymore. Times change. And so if we don't start showing the population what is going on in our world and in our little circles, we're never going to change perspectives moving forward. And so, yeah, I would love to be on TV. I think it'd be great. I would probably one of those wild characters like, let's see, New Girl. She's kind of wild and out there. That was one of my favorite
Oh
shows.
yeah.
Yeah, I could probably be like her, I don't know, something fun in the future.
No, I definitely love that. And speaking of like film specifically, or film and TV, I think what the industry needs a bit more of is just actual like people with disabilities playing roles that are like meant for people with disabilities. I've always had this like very underlying like dissonance about whenever I know an actor is able-bodied playing a disabled character. I'm just like, oh, that's kind of weird. I'm like, because I know so many talented like people in wheelchairs, people who have maybe they're like on the spectrum, and that but who are able to play those type of characters, because I think it will provide almost like a richer storyline to the character, or just the authenticity behind it. So I would definitely love to see you on TV. I really hope that's something that you would pursue, because I think for me, I would, and for the rest of the community, would appreciate that sort of talent on air. And like you were saying, it really all connects to like representation matters everywhere that we look. It's not just like on a commercial, but it's also in film and like pageant industries. So I definitely appreciate everything that you're doing. I love everything that you're about.
Thank you.
Of course. So one of my last questions I want to ask, I think we kind of touched upon it a little bit ago, but I definitely wanted to give you this time to speak with our younger audience too. Like, do you have any advice or tips on how to really navigate the disabled experience? I know there are a lot of children that just like, they have so many questions and they just don't know how to, especially vocalize their struggles. So I appreciate your vulnerability on like a lot of the things that we're talking about.
Yeah, I think for the younger generation, it's just don't ever listen to the words you can't. I was very quick as a little girl to listen to what the adults said around me. And I had a lot of people say, oh, you can't go to college, you can't drive a car, you can't live on your own. And as I got older, I realized that the only reason they said that is because they'd never seen anybody do it.
Yeah.
And so it's listen to it, but don't internalize it and don't take it, because there's always a way to accomplish a goal. Whether it's the most challenging goal you've ever accomplished, or it's something as simple as tying a string to your refrigerator so you can pull it open with your teeth. I don't know how I still have teeth left, but I do. And so it's just a matter of becoming creative, right? If you want to do it, you will push really hard to get it. And I just don't want to see our younger generations give up on that, because with the way the world is going and how much technology is out there right now, there's so many opportunities to be able to achieve any dream and any goal. It's just a matter of asking for the right accommodations. And so just don't ever listen to the you can'ts, because I don't like those and I don't listen to them. And I'm so happy I can go back now on my life and say, oh, you said I can't, right? Well, here's my car, here's my house, and here's my degree. Thank you very much.
There you go.
The empowering part.
No, I absolutely love that. I think a lot of our younger generation needs to hear those type of things. Just like you can't is such a dose of reality, but to be able to combat that, like you're correct. It's all there's so much empowerment behind overcoming those obstacles, and not like in an inspirational way, but just more of just like those with disabilities have so much more power than like we are given like credit for. I think like the word disabled itself is just like there's this preconceived notion of like, oh, disabled automatically means limited. Okay, there's a certain capacity that that we are limited in, but like at the same time, like you're saying, it's with creativity or strategically doing something, then we can overcome that limit. So thank you for that, and I'm sure a lot of our younger demographic would be thankful to hear that. Last thing is, anything that you'd like to promote, for example, like we were talking earlier about your running in Miss Florida. So tell us, how do we vote for you there, or like, what are the steps?
Sure. So there's a link, which you did post earlier. We can pin it so that it kind of stays in the top of that conversation.
Yeah.
Or it's all over my social media because I'm trying to post it every single day so people don't forget. But this is the first year that Florida said we can be voted into the top 6. And with the network of connections and the community that I have built around myself, I just feel like this is such an amazing opportunity to not only springboard myself to that level, but also the disability community. And that would bring so much recognition and advocacy efforts to the disability community as a whole. And so voting is really easy. You just go to missfloridausa.com/vote for Miss, I think is what the website is.
Correct. Yeah, correct.
Find the picture of me. It does say vote for Sara, but it's not my last name. So if you don't know what the picture looks like, it's all over my social media because I used the same headshot so you could match the pictures. You click on my picture, make sure you include my full name. So it's Sara Gaver. And then you can vote as many times as you'd like. If you can't vote, that's okay. If you could just share it with your community. I think just getting the word out that this is going on and this is taking place in our community today is so important. So regardless of the outcome, regardless if I make it to top 6, but fingers crossed I do, I'm just ready to see the industry change and still make history, right? Regardless if I win or not, history is still being made. And I think that's the most important part.
Exactly. And on behalf of AMCSI, we're just proud of all the things that you're doing and all the discussions that you are initiating, especially just in the pageant industry or all over, especially in commercials too. So it's really encouraging. And speaking for myself, it's super encouraging. Like I was telling Sara earlier, I was fangirling. So I definitely appreciate all that you do, and we definitely will be cheering you on. So overall, thank you so much for speaking with me today, having this little chat, and we'll definitely be sharing the recording of this live. And yeah, we'll be reposting any of the posts you'll be putting up regarding Miss Florida. But thank you again so much, and I hope you have a wonderful, hopefully sunny day in Florida.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Of course. All right. Bye, y'all. We'll be posting this video on our socials and on our website. So have a good day.